Welcome to our regular scheduled planning and zoning meeting on this 21st day of August, 2023. I'll just jump right on into the agenda. Work session topics is discussion of Article 1105, Mobile Homes Ordinance. Nobody's jumping right up and starting, so I guess I will go ahead and begin. We left this off with this Article 1105, and we've discussed some of the things in it that's a concern. Some of those concerns were just throwing a couple out, the M1, M2. Some of the concerns is how to interject tiny homes into that. We've discussed that and thought that we would not call it tiny homes, come up with another name, which, boy, that was challenging. I did try to sit and think about other names. And then also putting some minimum square footages on those, or on that, whatever we call it, not a tiny home, but whatever we call it, put a minimum square footage on it, and then just integrate it into our mobile home ordinance. We've discussed and thrown out some numbers, but hopefully we can get to that point tonight where we can throw a more definitive number out. I've heard 700 square feet, I've heard 800, I've heard 900, and so on and so forth. So hopefully we can get to that. Was there some other things, Jim, that you were thinking about too? It seems like there was a couple of others that you had mentioned.
That's most.
I think that was a highlight.
That's most of it, yeah.
Yeah. It is an important ordinance. We want to try to get this accomplished. Certainly we want to do a good job with it, but we certainly want to get it accomplished. I fear that we need to stay in front of some of these things. I know the first one we were trying to get in front of was the Airbnb, and I felt like we got out in front of that one a little bit, which fortunately we did. This is another one of those that I fear is maybe not going to go crazy on us, but you could start seeing some of those enter some backyards and things of that nature. So that's another reason why I was hoping to get involved in some of those. I hear, and as I do research it, I hear ADUs a lot, which is basically the accessory dwelling units, and that's some of the things that concerns me, them being thrown into backyards of people's property and so on and so forth. So those are some of the things that are a concern of mine that I hope to address. But the floor is open for discussion. What I would like to do is, boy, if we work this into some kind of a draft and we're comfortable with it, we can move on. If not, we're not uncomfortable or we're still uncomfortable with it at the end of this, we can move on to another time. How's that sound? Tim, you good with that? So, Tim, I'll open the floor up. What do you got?
Well, I've been doing some driving around town.
Good.
And
Good.
checking it.
In the motorhome or?
No,
Okay.
I didn't bring the motorhome. It's
Okay.
it's kind of big up some of these little streets.
Okay.
Anyway, the M1 and M2.
Mhm.
I really don't see why we want to do away with them.
Okay.
I've gone around in the areas,
Mhm.
and in them areas, there's only just a handful of trailers left.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And most of the ones where trailers used to sit are now double wides or a house been built there.
Mm-hmm.
And since, me and Jim's lived here a couple of years between the two of us.
Yeah.
And so I don't know because the lots that are left, if they move the trailer off of it, it's not big enough lot to do much more with it, to put another single wide trailer on it.
Okay.
And then I don't know if they have lots would even be qualified as a place to put, you could build a house.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's over here on, I guess, about between here and
Old Main and that area.
there,
Yes.
it's Hamilton Street.
And I can get that map for you if you
Yeah,
guys
I've got
need
a
that
copy of
again.
it.
Okay.
And the other thing is up on the other end, from South Street up to the shopping center, where they're gonna put the road in and goes to the
Mm-hmm.
complex. To me, that'd be a good area to have on that back part where, in that area, there's probably some few acres in there that you could put your, somebody wanted to go in and put some tiny homes to rent out or whatever.
Now, where is that at? Explain that to me. So like going down Webster Road?
If you go to Webster Road, you
Uh-huh.
go all the way to, right before you get to the shopping center, the road that goes to the left, which will go to the complex. All that's property on the left between there and the back side of South Street.
North Street.
So
North
put
Street.
like I'm gonna keep calling it tiny homes until you guys call me off of it, come up with another name. But a tiny home community, basically.
Yeah.
That's
Is that
just,
right in the city?
Yeah,
it's right there. It's on, right there bordering, isn't
yeah.
it?
And there's only a couple roads go up to it. I mean, you'd have to come off the road that goes to the park, or you can come up, in the curve there, the old state Greystone, you got that little skinny road there. And I think North Street and South Street, they're pretty well a dead end. I don't know if you come off there anywhere. But but to get up around, can't remember this what it's called,
Well, if,
Appalachia or something, whatever that street goes, turns left and by Greystone goes up the hill.
That's North Street, isn't
North Street's going down. North Street and South Street's right beside each other.
Oh,
That's the next street.
yeah.
is that the one Jay goes home on?
That's Jay's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Kenny Street.
Kenny Street.
Tenny.
Tenny, that's it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
That's it.
Tenny Street, that's correct. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I like about that is, once that complex is up and running, certainly that would be an opportunity. It would be very similar to Airbnbs,
Right.
to where people could rent for that complex. I mean, if they wanted to do that, if that's the desire of this commission to do something like that right there in that area. Hadn't really thought about that, but somebody's gonna take that and develop it into something, I would think.
Yeah. I'm not sure how to go get the map out and measure how much land's in there.
Mhm. Hadn't thought about that.
But you go all the way from where Jay lives to around the apartments, kind of takes the front part of it out. I don't know how far they own back past it.
Mhm. I guess it's just as whether or not
I forgot to bring my map.
if
with
you
me.
all have any desire to have that happen. I don't think it hurts the neighborhoods. I don't know how close that comes to Jay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not embedded down in our main city areas, so,
It'd be on the outskirts of town, I mean, first, between there and the mountain.
yeah. Certainly something to think about.
Yeah, I tend to think that, if somebody wanted to do something like that, I think we could certainly entertain that.
Yeah.
There's no question about it, but I've got some reservations about just having these zones, this M1 and M2, in that, you can put a mobile home anywhere in those zones.
Yeah, but there's only 4 or 5 lots left. You drive up down these streets, there's a trailer on Hamilton Street, and there's a couple trailers over here right behind the church. I mean, there's not, and then the rest of them lots are, they took the trailers out and built houses in.
Yeah, I think my thought process on it was to eliminate other single wides from coming into that area.
Yeah.
That was my thought process on it.
I'd see someone took one of theirs out, then that'd be up to the point by the time you come back on that lot, would be another single wide. You couldn't, it's not big enough for a double wide or
It's not, okay, so that's what you're
And
saying.
they're okay to do that with our present ordinance, right?
Yes, yeah, they would be grandfathered in,
Within 6 months, I mean, they can,
yes.
Someone
Put
puts
somebody
somebody
else in
in
it.
it, don't put back for say a year.
But they would
or
have to put it back in as a single wide, because what
Yeah.
he's saying is they wouldn't have enough room to put a double wide back.
Right.
Did you check and see if 6 months is the grandfather period, or is it a year?
I'm not
Did
positive on
anybody
it,
check
but
on that?
I'm not positive on it.
He didn't really say.
Yeah,
He just said it would keep going.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about grandfather, I'm just, what the ordinance says, about 6 months.
Are any of those lots doubled up, Tim? Do you know, do they have any?
Is there, the ones I saw, there was houses on both sides. There's a single wide in between them.
Yeah, like a house, single wide house.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm trying to prevent.
And there's no places, the only place that was left that, that there used to be trailers
Mhm.
is between that cemetery. There used to be a couple of trailers out back there when you turned up the street there by where the Chevrolet garage used to be. There used to be a little road that goes up there. And there was
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah,
and there was a couple of trailers in there, but there's nothing there now, just empty lots.
yeah.
But the lots are not very big, and you couldn't put much on them.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who owns them, if the people bought them that own the houses on the other street, not the rest of that little piece of property or not. I know there's designated a street that comes off
Yeah.
right there behind the old Chevy store. It's just probably what, 10-foot street, I'd say.
So, say we didn't do away with M1, M2. When something happens, they're still gonna have to replace it with a single wide.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, they're still gonna have to do that. And before I move on, I'm sorry. I owe Sherry a big apology. I should have introduced Sherry. This is Sherry Young. She's our newest commission member, and I'm super happy to have her on board. I'm glad that she agreed to come on board, and the mayor was real excited himself. So I sat down, just so everybody understands, me and Amy sat down with her and gave her some orientation the other day, and told her about each and every one of you. Now, told her about what we've done and where we're going and those kind of things, and what we want to see moving forward as far as going through these ordinances. So welcome. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Maybe I need to look at that map a little closer, but I just envision stop putting single wides in that area, and eliminating M1, M2 would do that.
And that's what I was thinking as well. I mean, certainly that you don't want to, anybody that's there, can continue to
Oh.
live there.
Yeah, yeah. And my deal is that I think even if something happens where they have to get something new, they can't put a double wide back in anyway. They got to put a single wide back in.
It'd be basically what happened, way I think I measured the lot, but the lots are not very big.
Yeah, they're pretty tiny.
How big do you think the lots are?
I mean, the trailers they're going long, we said there's not much room between them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're tiny.
All that in that area, the houses are real close together, there's not much room between them, and they're all small.
Well, the Baptist church bought that one house, or one trailer, and moved it out and moved their I guess it was a parsonage, up to it. And boy, that thing is lit. I mean, there was no land right there. I mean, it was really tiny. Okay. And then Jimmy, you got any comments on that?
No, just taking this all in,
Okay.
Soaking it up.
Soaking it up.
just looking where I'm putting the trailers.
The single wides. You got some single wides.
I used to. The best return you ever had in my life was those mobile homes. But that was a long time ago.
I think we can, if we allow M1 and M2 to stay, then I think, it's kind of like a secret in town, it's this, these mobile home areas,
Mm-hmm.
Most people wanting to build or something, or on a lot in these areas, wouldn't necessarily know about these things.
Mm-hmm.
What's it Greg said about the price of these mobile homes now? What's he said the other day with the lot and everything you gotta do, you're looking maybe up to $80,000?
Oh, yeah, oh,
Jesus.
sure.
Whew. Not a good return on that one.
I mean, and certainly, if we allow them to stand, I think we ought to have them mapped on our zoning map. They're not even on there,
You mean the mobile parks themselves or just the M1, M2?
in one and two.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they need to move over, they're on a map, but it's on a map
By
pinned to
itself.
the back of another map, so, yeah.
By
so-
itself,
So, yeah, it needs to be moved out to the zoning map for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, if you were to do that.
I don't really see any reason to keep them, but of course, I guess at my age, I want stuff to be simple, you know, so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I kind of want that for the ordinances too. I'm trying to convince myself as to the reason to keep it in there.
The reason I would think is the price of everything going up is ridiculous. And you got a young couple that's want to buy, have their own property. That's the, they're gonna spend $100,000 to buy a piece of property and put a decent home. And you drive around throughout town, most of the homes that are still in place are older homes, and they've been well kept up.
Oh, yeah,
They're not a trashy place. They're not
right.
some other houses around are a lot trashier and ran down a lot more than the mobile homes are. It's kind of hard to say to tell people, well, we don't want your mobile home too much in our summers anymore.
Yeah.
Well, basically, we did that when we said everybody had to be in a park.
We just moved them to a park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some people like to have their own little piece of property and not live
Sure.
and have to pay rent every
Their
month
independence.
and have.
Well, we're seeing
neighbors
some of
10 feet
that.
away.
We're seeing some of that. We've had some mobile parks change ownership, and they've really increased the rate of the rent of the property or of the lot.
Right.
And it's kind of a real problem for at least 2 of those parks right now, maybe even 3. It's getting real expensive. I mean, I think some of those lots have increased 3 times.
What's those
What
lots
they were
going
paying.
for now?
I'm hearing $500 and $600. Have you heard anything?
For a lot?
I mean,
Most of it's $375.
it was what?
$375.
It was? Yeah, it was. So I'm hearing it's went up quite a bit.
And frankly, some of these things are in pretty bad shape. I mean, I know
Yeah.
we've got 1 or 2 pretty nice ones, but
Yeah.
some of these things, the owners haven't kept them, the absentee owners haven't kept them up.
Mhm.
So I guess maybe I've got a little bit of a taste in my mouth right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
For this thing, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I've seen, the trailers that are in the trailer parks are more run down than the ones that are owned by somebody.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's something to be said about that. I mean, I
Sure,
think
no question.
if somebody owns their own property, they're gonna maintain it better, in my opinion.
We got an ordinance that they have to do that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if you don't own your own property, I mean, it's,
You stumped me.
Sherry, do you have any kind of ideas about that?
I didn't show her where that M1, M2 is.
Okay, you don't know about M1 and M2.
Very little
Okay.
spot.
So what we have is we have an area that we didn't even really know we had. We stumbled over it in an ordinance. So it said M1, M2, and we were like, what's that? And we happened to find it on a map pinned behind another map. And
From way back.
what Mr. Epling is saying, it needs to be on the real zoning map so that everybody understands where it's at. But it is more over here near the bottom of Old Main, through that area there where you'll see.
basically from Main Street to Hamilton, you know where Hamilton Street is? You know where the next road past
Key Street.
Key Street, yeah.
Next street up, and from there up to where Larry Frontino lives,
Alderson Avenue,
and over to the old gym.
behind it, Main Street.
To Main Street that way, so everything from Main Street that way.
So in those two, M1 and M2, it allows single wide trailers is what it allows. So we were thinking to take out 1 and 2, and that wouldn't allow any more in there, and then you grandfather the ones that are in there. Tim brings up a good point. There is people that want to buy land opposed to leasing or renting. But really, they're only at a size that you could put a single wide trailer on.
Are there any lots open through there?
I don't know if there's any for sale right now, but they say that where there's lots that could have one, there's one sitting there. And it's really not big enough to really, when they pull that off there, to put something else on it. But all the ones I've seen, like when you could turn up the Keys Creek, the second house on the left, it used to be three trailers set there, now there's one double wide sits there. Before you get to the church.
Yeah, and that's the best thing to do if you could buy
But there's none of them.
2 or 3 lots.
There's none of them side by side anymore. Where you can-
No, they've plugged houses in between them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think before you eliminate those, you need to see what availability there is for someone to put a trailer in. I mean, I guess I'm for the playing devil's advocate, but I think you gotta give these people an opportunity. You know, they can't afford these houses. They can't afford a double wide apparently, but they can put a trailer in or buy a used trailer and put it on a lot, but I think we gotta give them an opportunity.
I don't know how many, that would be some research, I don't know how many lots would be available over that way.
Would Joey have any kind of idea?
He has access to that mapping app that you can use and find out where all that stuff is, how many lots are there, and I know Tim does too. That's what he'd have to utilize to find that out.
The other thing is, I guess sometimes maybe overlooked a little bit, there's property values. That's a whole lot about what zoning's about.
Maintain the property.
Yeah, maintain property values. I don't know what, this would mean if we would keep it and if it would become used more. I don't know about that. So I don't know that it would enhance property values or protect property values necessarily, keeping them in there.
What do you mean, Jim, by restricting the trailers
Restricting any more from being built.
or any more?
Yeah.
The ones that are there are gonna stay there because they're grandfathered.
Yeah.
So whatever we decide, they would still be grandfathered.
New ones,
But if
or
you
new lots in those zones.
M1 and M2, or whatever the numbers are, you're heading towards, well, I think we need to find out the definition of grandfather. Because I've been around some of them where I've heard whether a year, I think a lot of them I think a lot of the cities would like for them to be 6 months instead of a year. But a lot can happen in a year's time. But my point being, I don't know, I don't know if I could be for restricting these young people or whatever, from getting them a trailer and putting it in a decent spot. And I haven't been able to look at M1 and M2 to see exactly.
I've looked, I haven't dug into the weeds to find out how many of those properties are available. I haven't done any of that. But truthfully, I didn't think there were that many available in that area. It's pretty populated through that area. So I can't imagine there being very many.
There's not many mobile homes. I don't know how many small lots there are.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
The only thing I saw, there's a couple lots, I'm not sure, I didn't pull my map up when I was driving around to check and see which ones are, who owns them. But there's the lots between the cemetery and that row of houses going down by the left side past the church.
Yeah.
There's that road comes back, but I don't know how, the lots are not very big.
No.
And then there's maybe one or two lots up the little alley that goes up the hill to the gym.
Okay.
But the other ones just have, there's a few single ones scattered out in between.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that one of the things we need to look at, it might take too much in-depth research to do it, would be to find out in those areas where mobile homes are zoned, how wide those lots are. I know from experience, when I was mayor, it's kind of weird, but we had a guy that built end-on houses. You know what those are? It's the ones where they build them back this way. And what this guy did is he went around and found small lots that had depth to them. So he could put an end on them and meet the zoning requirements for yard restrictions. And I bet he built 6 of them before we knew what was going on. But, you know, he put nice, you know.
But nice ones in.
Yeah, they weren't real expensive, but at that time, I thought, you know, this guy's got him a little niche here. But he was doing those end-on houses, and I thought, well, you know, you can't stop him because he was meeting all the side yard restrictions. But that's
That
what,
one like that, just down from, might be the one Brad's in, it's just down from White's. Look at that home, you know, and it's long. I mean, yeah, it's long, it's not wide, and that's what you're talking about.
yeah.
It was a,
And this is
Double
why-
wide.
It's a double wide.
White's house was
yeah,
like that.
that's her house, she told that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a double wide, but it's long and its
right.
width is not very long.
But, it's, you know, it's very attractive and everything. It's just
That's a nice
it's a
one.
different style house.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
But my point being, those are very attractive for trailers.
Yeah. Agree.
So it might be worth looking into to see. Anyway, just a thought.
Okay. So we need to define grandfather, we need to know how many lots are currently available in there to have some better understanding of the decision that we can make, so we can make a decision.
Well, one thing, you know, I was thinking about what Jimmy said about the grandfather thing, and, you know, in 11, what is it? 110505,
Okay.
on D there,
Okay.
it says owners may sell a mobile home single section manufactured home space and mobile home single section manufactured home to other buyers, and such buyers have the right to continue occupying said lot and unit even though it is located outside zone M1 or M2 if such space was occupied prior to something 74. I'd like to see that 74 piece taken out of there and say currently occupied, you know. Currently used as a mobile home space or something. But that basically, you know, that takes care of the, I mean, they've got the right to stay there if they want to stay there. Or they've got the right to sell it if they want to sell it.
Oh, yeah.
So, if such space was occupied prior to July, I don't know. I think it probably needs to be eliminated. In other words, just say if it's currently, you know, as of now.
Which one of the 1974s?
Where is he exactly?
You're in 1105.05, are you down in
D.
subsection 1?
D,
You're in D, okay, next page, I'm sorry. Oh, I see it, okay.
So I
if
don't-
such space was occupied prior to July. So yeah, you're saying, I think, I agree, just stricken that line and take out that particular date.
yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. And that would open it up if something was put in there before.
This is outside of the zone 1 and 2. Isn't it? That's reading.
Yeah.
There's so many, like, the one down on Arbuckle, was across from the Ford garage. If he would sell the property, the person could move that out, put another one in, if he doesn't. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Put a newer one in or whatever?
Mhm.
That lot's pretty good south, he could put another lot in that lot there.
But what Jim's saying is that would protect somebody.
Yeah, let them
That's-
stay.
I would agree with that.
Let them do whatever they want to with that
Yeah.
space. I don't know where the reference to July 174 helps. I mean, it's just, it's not useful, I don't think, in this context.
You would update it to. You see one of 23, if you wanted to give people who live there now.
Yeah. This ordinance was pretty well written, really.
Does anybody give any thought about how to incorporate any kind of restriction on tiny homes into this thing?
Get some kind of description what other people use it for tiny homes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of, when you're looking at, I think you were doing some of that research, weren't you? I mean, you hear a lot of names. Instead of tiny home, call it a small home, call it a compact dwelling, call it a small dwelling, call it cottage. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. All kinds of different names in there. What kind of names did you come up with, Ron?
Gateway cottages, ADUs, like you said,
Uh-huh.
tiny homes.
We need to make them sound as bad as we can.
There's a lot of,
There's a lot
I
of
like
places-
compact dwelling. I mean, I thought that was kind of interesting, you know, it's a small
Yeah.
dwelling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places that you can insert in here where it says there's factory built consisting of 4 types. We can
Yes.
make that 5 and insert it in there.
Yes.
That's what I think.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking, and that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's what I think we ought to do, if we can figure out what to call it.
Yeah.
We could put another category saying other pre-built housing or something, or off-site,
Compact
or
houses.
some factory, compact housing, I don't know. But that's why I was thinking about putting another category there.
Yeah.
Granny flat.
I know Granny Flats, yeah,
What?
Granny flat.
yeah, that
Backyard
was
cottage.
the name.
Backyard cottage.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying small home. Small dwelling. But I agree, I would just insert it and just add one to the number that they have. And then define it as a square footage, a minimum square footage you're gonna accept.
Yeah.
And then make sure you have a permanent foundation, something that you can live with there.
Here's
Well,
what
you can do that and just add another section here, a subsection, and define it, and it would take care of the whole thing.
I agree.
Because you could include it under the factory housing and manufactured home. That's what they are.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's what they are.
So you just insert that in as number 5 down there where it says 4 types on 1105.01D and just insert it there and put 5 types instead of 4.
I agree.
And you've eliminated a lot of
Yeah.
insertion here.
Yes,
Yeah, I think that was how I thought it should be done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you understand that, Amy?
No, where are you at?
We're on 1105.01.
Front page,
Under the definition,
yeah.
Yes.
And it's
D.
subsection D,
okay? Under factory housing,
where it says consisting of 4 types, you just
Yes.
make it 5 types
okay?
and put whatever we're gonna call it in there. And that really covers you through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm, it does.
Yeah,
And a lot less work.
Yep.
and then if you,
Unless you wanna, like we said, put another subsection and put a
identify what
definition.
it is, yeah.
Put a definition of your square footage you're talking about, Jim.
Well, here's kind of what I was,
Okay.
whatever we call this thing, whatever we call them. I was in the definition, say it includes all other off-site built transportable housing not specifically identified with other factory housing in section 110501D. In other words, it's kind of a catch-all.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
And then,
That would be in your definition.
yeah, that'd be a definition. Now, over here, maybe 110502, under factory built housing. Maybe somewhere down here, we could insert this, maybe some language like this. And whatever we call it, I call it pre-built homes or housing, or whatever, other pre-built,
Yeah.
whatever we call it there. As defined in Article 15, or 110501, shall bear a seal of compliance with regulations of the state building code and other applicable building codes adopted by the city by ordinance. Which says basically, they have to, I think originally I wanted, I think, to use the modular home qualifications. Because they specify foundations and square footage and all that kind of stuff.
right.
Make reference to the modular home requirements. And
And then that would.
just make it,
Somewhere you gotta insert that square footage we're talking about.
well, unless you refer to the modular home,
I saw here where it had
24 by 40 or
a
something.
single sectional manufactured house, size from approximately 670 to 1200 square feet. That would take it in.
what is that under? Which one?
That's 110501 on the front page, definitions under, I don't know if that's subsection 1, I believe it is.
Yeah, it's just
Halfway down.
one.
But it gives the sizes there, and that 670 surely would take it in, wouldn't it?
Well, I guess the question is, we've got a requirement on modular homes. Under 110502, item A2, says the home must measure width and length at least 24 by 40. So that's a modular home, that's the modular home requirement.
Just a little
Saying that's the
break.
minimum. That's a minimum.
Are you saying you want to make your, whatever you're going to call it, that size? Or
Use that, whatever we use there, use it for,
That size or more.
yeah. I don't know, it's just
isn't
something.
that too big though, Jim?
I
Be
don't know.
about 800,
What,
That's about
880 square feet or something like that.
More than that.
960.
960.
24 by 40.
It's 960.
That's a pretty good size tiny home, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the question is, do we want tiny homes or not, or, do we want,
You got 12 by 60, then you're at falling at 670, that's 1,200.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, over here it's 670 minimum.
Because it's like 12 foot wide and you're looking at 56 foot long.
Pretty soon they're gonna get as big as your motorhome. Well, by the way, how big is that? How long is that?
It's 39,
Do you know there's a restriction in here on them, they can only be 32?
33,
Did you know that?
yeah.
Just
Not
thought-
on the budget.
I just thought that when I heard, when I read this.
Yeah, we have something for him.
I just wondered if,
Well, mine's already built, he's sitting there.
Oh, okay.
yeah. So I guess the question is,
scratch that off.
I guess the question is, what do we want that number to be?
yeah, do we want to encourage this or discourage it or what? Where are the boundaries going to be?
Well, I'm for them, I just don't want them to, put 4 or 5 of them in the backyard.
Well, yeah, and again, I'll say this again, I said about the property values,
Absolutely.
So you think if you had a pretty nice home, would you want somebody moving, what would that do to your property value? If somebody got a minimal sized tiny home, moved it in there and didn't keep it up very much.
Is there
Of course,
any,
that could go for any kind of home, I mean.
is there any restriction as to how close they could be to a property line?
Yeah, there's-
Side and back. and
yeah, there
front.
is.
Well, I know that, but
Yeah, they have restrictions on all those sides.
Most houses is what, 25 feet from the street, 15 feet from the side of the property line?
Yeah,
I don't know what it is here, I
I
don't know.
don't know what the back
it's
part
12
is.
to 15 in the back, I believe.
Sides too, isn't it?
Yeah. That's why we have Joey.
These things can be incredibly difficult to define. That's what these things are. They come in all kinds of shapes and sizes and whatever else. I mean, looks and everything else. It's,
Yeah.
I think everybody's having that trouble too.
Oh, yeah.
All the cities are.
Yeah.
sure.
As
What did
municipal
Craig
league-
say, Lewisburg's was? I thought he said 750 or 800, I can't remember.
Has municipal league come up with any new information?
No. Not at all. Nothing new.
Now, if you read the modular home section in 110502, it says modular homes shall be permitted in all zones subject to requirements and limitations in this article. Minimum lots, yard and building spacing, all this kind of stuff that pertains to homes. And then section 1 says, modular homes qualifying as a single-family residence shall be compared to site-built other housing in the immediate area within the same zoning or residential district or area. Approval shall be granted upon the finding that the modular home is substantially similar in size, siding material, roof material, foundation, and general aesthetic appearance to site-built homes and existing developments. So that's the restriction on modular homes now. That you just can't put anything
Mhm.
up as a modular home. Now, do we want the same kind of thing for tiny homes? Does that make sense? I don't know.
Well, I don't think there's any, from the ones I've seen, I don't think there's any question about their aesthetic appearance, because these things are all pretty nice, the ones I've seen. They've got, they're built just like a little house. The problem is they're just so small. But I've not seen, even down there in southern West Virginia, when it's a tiny home and not a converted garage, it's pretty nice.
But it could be. I mean, you know, I'm just thinking down the road about what somebody may
Yeah.
do. Somebody may bring in.
Yeah.
That's why I like the idea that Tim was mentioning earlier about a small community of those tiny homes compared to putting them into our residential areas.
Zones, yeah.
That's what I did like about that.
Yeah, I don't have any kind of issue with that at all.
Yeah,
No problem with that.
and I
If you
think there's a
wanted-
place for that. I struggle with putting them in our R1, R2. I just
do.
struggle with that.
There's one going into Pineville as you go into that, I don't know, anyway. But a guy put 4 of them over there, and they're really nice. They got little porches on them. I don't know about their utilities, what they have available, but I assume they have water and sewer of some kind. But they're nice. Each of them have a little lot,
Sure.
and there's like 4 of them, or maybe at the most, I would say at the most, there's 2 acres there, at the very most. But they've got a little attached lot that they let them park their 4-wheelers,
Mhm.
so they don't affect the appearance of the, you know what I mean? So, and they're nice. They're made out of, they're kind of a log look, rustic, really nice. I mean, that's what you're talking about, Jim, what you know, do it in some kind of a nice appearance look.
Yeah, community or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
a community.
I don't have any kind of problem with it.
No,
Nothing.
no.
Somebody wanted to do that. I don't, you know, it's not that I'm
Yeah,
against anybody doing that. But it's just like, just to say in carte blanche, allow them in R1 and R2 anywhere.
I struggle with that. I struggle with that.
Well, we're not talking about putting them in R1 and R2, we're talking about M1 and M2, right?
Well,
No,
no.
we got off in one and, well,
We've sort of abandoned M1 and M2. We got to return to M1 and 2 because we haven't made any decisions. But we're off of it now and we're talking about the whole ordinance as a whole, which should be all over.
I think that if we're going to build a tiny home, they ought to be an M1 and M2, nowhere else.
Correct. I think you're saying the same thing that I'm saying. I think that you're saying.
if we keep in one and then.
Yeah, if you kept M1 and M2, that's what you do. We don't want them throughout. I mean, there's a lot of areas in our city that has the deed restrictions that would keep it out anyway. But there's a good bit over on this side that you could do it,
but
unless we restrict it.
I'm playing the devil's advocate on this again. I'm saying grandma wants her independence and doesn't want to live with, you know, the grandkids and their family, so they're put her a little place out back,
Right.
which is one of the purposes of tiny homes, to give her some kind of independence so she can sleep away from her, whatever. I'm just throwing that out as a thought.
There are areas addressing that and allowing that for short-term basis. They're bringing them in on wheels, and they leave those there, and most of the time it's because the older folks are still living in their home, and the family is taking care of them, you know, from the back. But it's a limited time. They have to remove it over a period of time.
Well, you're kind of in, you know, virgin territory here. You don't, you know, there's nothing to go by. You don't have any guidelines from any other cities, and you really,
No, we're out in front.
I've yet to run across anything that I thought was some kind of good model for us to follow.
No.
Yeah.
When you get out in front of something like this, you don't have a lot to go on. I mean, we're out in front.
And I think if someone wanted to put another mobile home park in and came to force with the plans and so forth, and everything else, that would be,
If you want to put tiny homes in a new mobile home park, you could.
yeah,
I would be okay with that.
I don't have a problem with that.
Matter of fact, that would be probably a pretty nice community.
you know, tiny homes park would be really nice.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be kind of
Talk
nice. Uh,
about getting return on your investment.
Yeah, I'd like to have one of those. Okay, so where we're hanging up here is, we're hanging up still on the M1 and 2, and we're hanging up on where we go with the minimum square footage. That's what we're hanging up on.
I still think you're stuck at no less than 670 to 1,200. That's what they're gonna be. They're not gonna be any bit smaller, they're gonna be bigger than that.
Yeah.
You got something they're gonna pull down the road, like they show halfway on TV, they build these things, they're like basically a camper driving down the road with 2 stories. And most campers are only 8.5 foot wide. They have slide outs and stuff, but most of these tiny homes I've seen, they don't have any slide outs. They're just,
Yeah,
Right.
they're box.
there's a
Yeah.
box and they're gonna be like 8.5 foot wide, and they're gonna be 40 to 50 foot, 60 foot long.
So that's the other part of this. I mean, do you want
That's right.
that 670 square foot home? And if you say you don't, then you don't want tiny homes, in my opinion. I mean, that's sort of where we are.
Yeah.
If you want that 670 square foot, then you want tiny homes. And I struggle with that in our community.
And also, if you allow them, then what kind of building codes apply? I mean, mobile homes, manufactured housing has some requirements, right? Some
Yeah.
seals,
Yes.
compliance with certain standards and so forth for building. But what about these things? These things don't, there's no standardized.
No. There's a tiny home organization that is saying they're getting close to being able to put things in the, what do they call it, the West Virginia, help me. Joey works out of this book all the time.
International zoning code?
International zoning codes. They're trying to get tiny homes listed in there with the square footages, and they can't get that passed yet. So what's in there is minimum square footages for certain areas of the house, like bath areas, kitchen areas, living areas. So those are in there now, but they don't have anything for tiny homes yet.
Now, when we started this, did we have a model ordinance or guidelines from
Here.
Fayetteville?
I think that most ones I've seen on
Was it?
TV, they're like 400.
I know, they're tiny.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're tiny.
Did we have an ordinance from them or something that restrict, no, I'm wrong. That was on Airbnb. wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
We haven't seen an ordinance yet, have we?
No. They're not out there. You go searching, they're not out there, guys.
I looked quite a bit and haven't seen
Yeah.
anything really substantial. So there's different.
Well, I can be convinced to go a lot of different ways. I'm not going to, I don't think I'm going to be in favor of below 670 or 700. I mean, that's pretty small. And like you said, most of those tiny homes are going to come in at probably 500 feet.
Because most of them they're only 8.5 foot wide.
Yeah, most of those are little.
Where you got a single wide, they're
Yeah.
12 to 14 foot wide.
Yeah.
Some of them are 16 foot wide.
670 is small though.
Well, the question is, do we want them? Where do we want them?
I know.
Where's it okay? I mean, you know, we've got requirements for single wides and double wides, but basically, you know, square footage, you know. Nobody want to come in and say, okay, you can, you know, if you've got something smaller than 670, you can build, you can put them in R1 and R2.
I wouldn't do that.
I don't think so either.
Well, I think that this thing is so undefined and whatever. I think if we would take some kind of action, we'd be probably too far ahead of the game. I think we need to really take a hard look at this thing and see what's going on in other places and try to pick some things out. Otherwise, we may, you know, they're going to have to modify it because nobody knows what's going on.
Well, I think we can put something in that would prevent the tiny homes from heading into these communities.
I do too.
I do think you
Absolutely,
can
we
put
can.
something in there. I mean, you can later change it if something changes, but I think we can do that.
That's what I was saying about the larger square footage.
Yeah.
You put that for everything else, which this, whatever we call this, compact housing or whatever, you know, if you put a pretty big square footage requirement on that,
Yeah.
and say, and also say that they're bound to the same requirements that modular homes are.
I'd be interested to know what some of we have some smaller homes in town, and I'd be interested to know what those square footages are. But I would have to guess some of those smaller ones are 700 to 800 square feet probably. I don't know.
Yeah, some of them are pretty small.
Yeah. Yeah, I can think of 3 or 4 off the top of my head right now that I know they're small, they're tiny. They're not tiny homes, but they're tiny. They're small homes or compact dwellings, something like that.
Now, we have I think Donna showed me a place, I think it was her, that someone's converted a garage, and it's like it's not even, it's one open space, really. Except
Like a
for the
studio.
bathroom is blocked off, but everything else is open.
Like a studio apartment.
And it's, I don't even know if it'd be a studio. It might be, but it's real small, was my point, like you said. I think it was a one-car garage. That's pretty small.
I don't know about that one.
What would that size of that be?
12,
Joey may be interested.
Yeah.
12 by,
25 maybe.
yeah.
I'm not sure where it's at, which one you're talking about. There's 2 or 3 small places around here.
The ones I'm thinking about are kind of rented, I think. Small rentals, but
That's what this is.
I think this one I'm thinking about probably is too. I thought about going over and measuring, but I figured I'd get shot.
yeah.
I said, we probably don't want anything smaller than
You might get
that.
shot going around.
With a measuring tape, measuring somebody's property.
Okay. Well, I like to keep my meetings to an hour. I don't know where we are on this at this point, but I think we've got to figure out what we're going to call tiny homes, what we're going to define as minimum square footage, and are we keeping it 1 or 2, or are we letting that go? I think those are and I think we're too far away from jumping into the next meeting and making decisions, unfortunately, but I'll certainly run and try to get some.
That's why you have work sessions.
That's right, that's why we have a work session.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump out there and look at defined grandfather and how many lots are currently available in that M1 and 2. There's just not any more information on tiny homes. I just can't, I've dug so far into the weeds on that I'm not even gonna go back and look at that.
I think it's kind of like the Airbnb thing. I think you find articles that people have written that basically support that. And they make reference to things, but you never can quite get your hands on anything substantial to maybe model after. Yeah.
Correct.
It's kind of like the Airbnb, you know, some people said, you know,
The other thing we have to look at and see, is there anybody building these, the manufacturing company building them, or is it just individuals building them?
Probably a mixture of both.
yeah.
I mean, do we actually have manufacturing companies doing?
Somebody's gotta be building.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean,
building them.
The ones I saw were all the same model, everything was the same. So
Yeah.
that might be an approach to go after.
Find who's building them.
Yeah, find out who's building them, get their guidelines and things of that nature.
Well, everybody dig in, hit Google. Hit Google, see what you can dig up. Amy, so basically I'm gonna entertain a motion to come out of the discussion or the work session unless anybody wants to add any more to what was said. Do I still need to go into meeting topics?
No.
Not really, there's nothing there to really vote on. We did have the stop work order, and I'll take 2 minutes just to show you that. It's in your packets. That's what we would have discussed and probably voted on if we could. Joey has asked me,
Do we want to adjourn the work
We
session?
need to go out of that.
You can't really talk about.
Can't really
that until you
discuss
do a
this.
meeting. Yeah.
so I really can't discuss it. Okay, all right. So I entertain a motion to adjourn
To adjourn what?
Work
the
session?
work session.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Okay. Yeah,
You were for the.
so I got a first, I got a second.
Vote against it, go ahead. Get your
You gonna
name,
vote against it?
get your name in the
Come on, raise your
minutes.
hand. Say aye.
All right. Okay. All right, I got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.